What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is a video I've been looking forward to give to you guys for quite some time, over 2.5 years to be exact. And in case you're new to the channel, let me give you guys a bit of backstory. So late January, I might add, of 2021, I released to you guys my top 25 favorite films of all time. And I said that I would be giving you guys my number 26 to 100 and breaking that into 3 parts, which would be 26 to 50, 51 to 75, and then 76 to 100. And lo and behold, I didn't realize that it took me 2.5 years, but when I looked back and I saw that, I was like, oh no. But I've just been working through this for quite some time, and I'm someone that can be indecisive when it comes to ranking, especially all time, because let's face it, a lot of times people will look at someone's like top 50 list or top 100, they're like, wait a minute, why is this place this way? And it's one of those things where it's like, it's subjective. Everyone's taste is going to be different, and everyone's ranking list is going to be different, which is the great thing. But I got it to be, this video is going to be my number 26 all the way to 50. And I'm going to be going backwards, though. I'm going to be giving it to you guys in 50, and then the very last one will be 26 at this video. And I'm also going to say this. My number 1 to 25 that I gave to you guys in January of 2021, yes, over time, people's opinions do change. But I will say that, as of right now, I do stand by that 1 to 25 in terms of, hey, those are the 25 films that are my top 25. But what I will say is this, that video, the ranking is tweaked a little bit. Like, I haven't tweaked it on Letterboxd or anything, but down the line, I might finalize it, like, you know, re-rank it, so to speak, because my placement of certain films have changed a little bit with that top 25, but that'll be a video for another day. But guys, I'm very excited to give you guys my top 100 films, specifically top 26 to 50. So, all that exposition aside, guys, let's get started. So kicking things off, my number 50, we have Blue Velvet. What can I say? I love Blue Velvet. I think that David Lynch did such a great job with this film, especially, depicting suburban lifestyle and having it where underneath all the, perfect rose-tinted glasses, there is a lot of seedy undercurrent going on. Frank Booth is an incredible villain in this film. I mean, Dennis Hopper does such a phenomenal job. This is definitely a precursor to the TV show Twin Peaks. And I have to say, this is definitely one of not only David Lynch's best films, but also one of the best suburban films in my personal opinion. And that's why I have it as my number 50. Also, highly recommend buy it on Criterion Blu-ray. It looks phenomenal. But yeah, that's my number 50. Next up, my number 49, we have Apocalypse Now, theatrical cut. So Apocalypse Now, my journey has been quite interesting. This was a film that was originally a 4.25 for me, and then it did go up to a 4.5. And then I saw the final cut because I have, this 4K where it has all 3 cuts, which is I forget the name of the extended cut. Anyways, it has the extended cut, final cut, theatrical cut. And I'd always seen the theatrical cut, but 4 years ago I did watch the final cut. And I didn't like it as much. I was like, maybe I'm just not as big of a fan of Apocalypse Now over the course of time. But recently, I rewatched Apocalypse Now, the theatrical cut, and it clicked with me. It's now a 5 out of 5 masterpiece of a film. I think it's incredible. The sound design in this film is phenomenal. The soundtrack, the acting, the atmosphere. This is also a film that, yeah, it's a blockbuster and it made a lot of money and everything, but it's got that like art house kind of aspect to it where there's a lot of visual storytelling. And it definitely isn't a film that is black and white. It's a film that is more so into the morally gray area, specifically of war. And it's a film that's very thought-provoking. And I love this film, man. Over the last decade, this is a film that I have come back to, and I find myself liking it more and more. To give you guys some perspective, this was, I think, my number 248, 249 in terms of my top 250 that I had nearly a decade ago. Now, as you can see, it is my number 49. So, full circle moment. But yeah, so that's my number 49. Next up, my number 48. What can I say? It is Amadeus. So Amadeus is an incredible film. It's a film that is about rivalry. It's about musicians. It's about just the beauty of music, but also the downfall of revenge. Specifically how it can ruin people. And I think that this film also just does such a great job of having it where, despite its length, I've only seen that's a lie. I almost said I've only seen the director's cut. I have seen the theatrical cut, but it was only once. It was my first viewing. But I've seen the director's cut all the time since. And the director's cut is 3 hours long. And despite its lofty length, it is something that does fly by. It is a film that I find myself consistently immersed. I don't come back to it as much as, like, say, Apocalypse Now or Blue Velvet. But it is a film that when I do put it in, I find myself falling in love with it more and more with each passing viewing. And, yeah, that's why I love Amadeus. It's my number 48. Next up, my number 47, it is Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. So this was a film I saw twice in theaters, and I, saw it several times since, and then I, picked it up on Blu-ray, and I saw it many more times. And this is a film that I went from like really liking it to then being angry at it for winning Best Picture at the Oscars to now a film where I'm like, it's fantastic. Like, I was angry that this won over Boyhood, but I find myself coming back to this film way more than Boyhood now, especially the last like 5 years. And now I'm like, okay, yeah, Birdman is a better film. And it's not even just a better film in terms of the filmmaking. It's also just the lasting impact that it's had on me, where this is a film that is more relevant than ever, I feel like, because the superhero genre is, obviously at its peak, and it's in the theaters. It's in the theaters to the point of where that's one of the only other options that people, have. And it's films like this that people don't really seem to go to anymore, versus when Birdman came out, it was a film that people did watch. It was a, I don't want to say a box office success, but it did quite well, and I don't think it would do well if it came out today, despite it being an excellent critique of the current state of films. And it's not even about films, it's about the theater, and it's about art, and it's about, critics versus, creators, and just what that's creating. And then additionally, it's a film that is acting within acting within acting. The performances are incredible. The cinematography is outstanding. There are so many long takes. For those of you who don't know, this film is made to look like it's one long take. It's not, but it's made to look that way. And it's impressive. Just seeing the performances, seeing the dialogue, and just the overall lasting impact this has had on me. I mean, I just, even just talking about it right now, I can see myself just wanting to put this in my 4K player and watch it in a couple days. I love it. I love talking about this film, and I think that it is one of the best films, and that's why, for me, it's my number 47. Next up, my number 46, we have Requiem for a Dream. So, Requiem for a Dream, is it an easy watch? No. Is it a masterpiece? My opinion, yeah. I think that Darren Aronofsky's directing is top-notch. I think that the acting is great. I love the score. Holy cow, the score by Clinton Mansell is just, it's on another level. But I also just think that the depiction of drugs is quite interesting, or just addiction in general. And the editing, the hip-hop kind of style of editing is something that really makes the, length breeze by. This is also a film that I see a lot of people have it on their list of top 10 films they'll never watch again. I hate to say it, but that's not really the case for me. This is actually the opposite, where I've seen this film a lot. I think I've seen it like a dozen times. Yeah, maybe I need help. But this is a film that I consistently come back to, because it's a film that really puts addiction under the microscope and dissects it in a way that really makes for a thought-provoking viewing. If you haven't seen Requiem for a Dream, I recommend you at least watch it once. I totally get it if it's a film that you don't want to revisit, but if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend to watch it at least one time, because you definitely won't forget about it. That's for sure. And, now we have, next up, my number 45, 12 Years a Slave. Another hard-to-watch film, another masterpiece. This is a necessity in terms of viewing experience. I understand if people don't want to watch this multiple times. I get it. But there's a reason why it won Best Picture, and that's because this film is extremely well acted. It's harrowing to watch. It is a film that, at the same time, is across the board incredible. The filmmaking is outstanding. The costume design, the cinematography, the editing, everything works about this film. And it's emotionally hard-hitting, too. The ending in particular definitely, not gonna lie, it brings tears to me every time that I watch it. Definitely a film that to remember it once is to remember it always. Along the lines of Schindler's List in terms of like an emotional impact. Highly recommend 12 Years a Slave, and it's my number 45. Next up, my number 44, we have Fight Club. So Fight Club, I mean, y'all know me probably. I love David Fincher, and Fight Club is definitely the film that I feel like this is the most popular, and I definitely understand why, because it is a film that, despite being nearly 140 minutes, it flies by. The pacing is excellent, the editing style, the score, the acting, and I also just love how it puts society under a microscope and dissects it. And the more times I watch it, the more I appreciate the humor, because this is something that when I first saw, I just saw how dark it was, but now I understand that it is, at its core, a dark comedy. And it's a dark comedy that works in spades. I also just love how this is a film that, with its themes and messages, depending on when you watch it, you're like, you might misinterpret it. Like, for myself, when I first saw it, I was like, why are people talking about this film and so obsessive over the fighting and you know, just how they want to create fight clubs? Like, I didn't understand that many people were misinterpreting the themes and messages. But I also myself was just kind of like not fully grasping the themes and messages. But now I understand that it's dissecting toxic masculinity, consumerism, and I think the consumerism in particular just does such a great job of the way that it's broken down. But yeah, Fight Club, if you've been sleeping on it, highly recommend it. And if you're a fan of Mr. Robot, I mean, this is the one that they gave us, Mr. Robot. No Fight Club, no Mr. Robot. But yeah, Fight Club's my number 44. Next up, my number 43, we have Citizen Kane. Side note, I love Citizen Kane. I think it's an incredible film. But I will say, despite being a huge fan of Criterion Collection, this might be my worst Blu-ray that I think got... Well, 4K, because I own this on 4K. This might be the worst 4K. If you own this on 4K, the Criterion Edition, you know what I'm saying. But anyways, Citizen Kane. Yeah, it's a masterpiece. I know that a lot of comedy shows, are, you know, make fun of it for being quote-unquote boring and, you know, the twists and everything, but... Man, if you are someone that loves film, watch this. This is a great example of nonlinear storytelling, a twist ending that works so well and really brings across the whole film full circle. This is a film about childhood specifically and how, you know, not having one definitely will impact someone, but also relationships, how broken ones in particular affect everyone, not only the individual, but the people around them. And this is a film that really was ahead of its time from the cinematography techniques that are utilized, but also, as I mentioned, the nonlinear storytelling was something that definitely wasn't really around. And this is also something that one could argue had a part in setting up film noir. But this is a great, great film. Again, if you've been sleeping on Citizen Kane for some reason, what are you waiting for? This is a great film, and yeah, that's why it's my number 43. Next up, my number 42, we have Punch Drunk Love. So this is a Paul Thomas Anderson film, and it might be my favorite romance. It is a romantic comedy art house film, and in all three categories, it works incredibly well. I'll never forget first hearing about this film. Ironically enough, my girlfriend at the time, which was a little over 9 years ago. I remember when we first started talking, we were talking about like, hey, you know, what's a film that you think that you saw and you couldn't even finish it because how bad it was. And for her, it was Punch Drunk Love. So obviously when we broke up, I immediately decided to watch Punch Drunk Love. And from frame one, I fell in love with it. I thought that Punch Drunk Love was an incredible film. And it gets better and better. And there's so much rewatchability value to it. But I also just think that it does such a great job of getting inside the mind of someone that, you know, isn't the most stable. From the score to the editing style to just the mannerisms of Adam Sandler, you know, that he ignites into this character. All of this brings about a seamless character study that just, oh my goodness, works every time that I watch it. I also have to say, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Adam Sandler going at it at the end, phenomenal. That is peak storytelling. And on top of that shut up scene, fantastic. Punch Drunk Love, it's a film that's very quirky for sure. Might not work for some people because of that, but if you are someone that is an open-minded individual, would highly recommend you check out Punch Drunk Love. It's very short. It's one of Paul Thomas Anderson's best films in my personal opinion. And yeah, that's why I have it as my number 42. Next up, my number 41 is Anatomy of a Murder. So this is a film that's just outstanding on all fronts. We have James Stewart Howard. Not James Stewart. We have James Stewart. I can't believe I said Howard. James Stewart, anyways, does such a great job in this film. He's one of my favorite actors, but in this film in particular, just does such a great job with the character. And I think that this is yet another example of a film that, despite nearly being 3 hours long, it flies by. The dialogue, the writing, everything about this film is quite strong. And it's a film that is definitely one of my favorite courtroom films. And I think that it's a great companion piece to another film that is on this list, and you'll see pretty soon. But again, it's a little prelude, if you will. But if you've been sleeping on Anatomy of Murder, highly recommend you check it out, especially if you like courtroom films. And I'll also say this came out in 1959, so the Hays Code was slowly dissipating, and you can see it through this film especially, and it's awesome. But yeah, Anatomy of a Murder is my number 41. Next up, my number 40, this is a film that... it's incredible. My number 40 is Oldboy, 2003. So I own the Vengeance trilogy, as it's called, and this is something that I'll still own for sure, unless the other two get an upgrade. But as of the filming of this video, Oldboy 2003 is going to be coming out in theaters in August. And there's going to be a 4K restoration. So with that 4K restoration, I'm assuming that there will also be a 4K physical media release. So if that's the case, you best believe that I will be upgrading from Blu-ray to 4K with that film. But anyways, Oldboy. Yeah, it's one of the best revenge films. It also features one of the best twists endings. It also is a film that yet another moral plunge into the gravitas of this film is just outstanding. A character journey unlike anything you've seen. It's just incredible, incredible. Everything about this works. I love the score. I love the cinematography. I think the lead performance is just fantastic, especially how we as audience members immediately care about him because of the situation that he's brought about. But then there are things that are brought to light to us as viewers' attention through the course of this film, and then we're like, "Ooh, I don't know if I still like him. I don't know." But it's, again, that moral plunge that I really appreciate. It's a morally great film that is just fantastic in terms of how it's made. And, yeah, that's why it's my number 40. Next up, my number 39, Paul Thomas Anderson appears again. My number 39 is The Master. So, yeah, The Master, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Amy Adams, Joaquin Phoenix, all three incredible performances. Everyone else, fantastic job. But this is when I talk to people about how, there's the hero's journey, and that's what a lot of people like, how they want to see a character needing growing, and then by the end they've grown and they've, matured. Well, there's also another arc, and what I like to call the art house arc. And my go-to is using The Master as an example, where you see a character in the first frame and how, as the film progresses, he's trying to change. He's trying his best. All the people around him want him to change. But by the end, he doesn't. And the last scene represents that because it's a bookending. It's the first scene and the last scene. They match. And that's something, again, I'm not spoiling anything, but I think that The Master is one of the best examples of an art house character arc done outstandingly well. I'll also say this. Cinematography, it's off the charts. Johnny Gruden scored, off the charts. And the acting, let me just say this. Joaquin Phoenix would have won Best Actor if it wasn't for Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in Lincoln. Joaquin Phoenix, this might be his best performance. I'm not even kidding. If you like acting and you can appreciate performances, would highly recommend you watch The Master. But I will say this. It is a very oddball kind of film. I love it for that very reason, but it is definitely an incredible film. And the breakdown of Scientology, religion in general, cults, it's outstanding. Watch The Master ASAP. And yeah, it's my number 39. Next up, my number 38, we have Raiders of the Lost Ark. What can I say? One of the greatest action-adventure films ever made. Spielberg is in top form with this film. Harrison Ford gives a great lead performance. This film zips by. I love the pacing. I love the practical effects. Everything about this film works. And yeah, that's why it's my number 38. Next up, my number 37, this is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, this film feels as if we're watching a home video of a deranged cannibalistic family. And I gotta say, it's effective. It's only 84 minutes long, but let me just say this. You can't help but get caught up in this journey of these characters and with what they're having to endure. Hard to watch? Yes. Necessary to watch? I think so, especially if you're a horror fan. This is definitely a film that is one of the best of the 70s. And yeah, that's why it's my number 37. Next up, my number 36. This is still to this day my favorite action film. And yeah, you probably guessed it. My number 36 is The Raid 2. Think Godfather Part II meets The Departed. You get a pretty good idea on what the story is of this film. But it's with the action of... I can't even really say what the action is like. Because up until this point, there wasn't really any action films that I had seen quite like this film. And to this day, there are some films that try to emulate that feeling of The Raid 2, but none have really come so close, because The Raid 2 it's incredible at what it's able to give to us. It's an ambitious story. It's lengthy, sure, but the way it's able to pace itself with the action scenes and then at the same time giving us really important character beats, characters that we care about, it's really well done. Some of the best action you'll ever watch, and again, my favorite action film personally as of the filming of this video. And next up, we have the companion piece to Anatomy of Murder. We have 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men, one of the finest courtroom films, just one of the best location films in terms of one setting. Fantastic performances. Another film that really plunges into the morally gray concept of courtrooms and the system behind it. And I think that now more than ever, 12 Angry Men is a relevant film. And I think that it's so effective at really garnering drama. You wouldn't think it because, again, it's just 12 people talking. But let me just tell you this. It is quite effective. Watch it for yourself. But for me, it flies by. It's only 96 minutes long. But by the end, you can't help but get caught up in this film and everything that's able to bring to the thought-provoking questions that it asks. Yeah, 12 Angry Men. I love it. That's why it's my number 35. Next up, my number 34, we have Trainspotting. So in college, I actually had a film class, and one of the films that we had to watch was Trainspotting. And I'm so glad for that because I watched it in class. I loved it so much so that I watched it a couple days after, and I was just like in love. Hadn't seen it in years, and then I decided to revisit it. And a couple of years ago when I revisited it, I loved it, and history repeated itself because then a couple of days after I revisited it on Blu-ray, I showed it to some friends. And yeah, it is one of my favorite films. This film moves really fast. It's quite effective. It deals with, heroin junkies, and you wouldn't think that it would be quite funny, but this film is very, very funny. It's got a really interesting sense of humor, but it also knows how to deal with the searing drama at hand, and I think that it blends the two quite effectively. These characters, yeah, they're very hard to watch at times, and they do make, a lot of decisions that for many will be like, okay, off-putting, but for me, it made it all the more interesting to see these characters deal with all these morally ambiguous kind of things. And I love that. I think it's a very effective. I would say it's a better depiction of, addiction and drugs than Requiem for a Dream. But I do think Requiem for a Dream also is a great companion piece to Trainspotting. And yeah, it's now, personally for me, my favorite Danny Boyle film now. And yeah, that is why it's number 34. Next up, my number 33, we have Boogie Nights. Yeah, I know, another Paul Thomas Anderson film. Sue me. Boogie Nights is outstanding. For the longest time, I actually liked Magnolia over Boogie Nights, but over the last several years, I can now say that, without doubt, Boogie Nights I like more than Magnolia. And Boogie Nights I just think is so great with having so many outstanding sequences. So many sequences that are outstanding to the point of where this entire film pretty much brought about Babylon last year. Like, there wouldn't be a Babylon if it wasn't for Boogie Nights. There are so many scenes from Babylon that are lifted straight from Boogie Nights. And that just is a huge compliment, but it also just shows the lasting impact that Boogie Nights has. Boogie Nights has an incredible ensemble cast, great editing. It's, again, a film that's over 2.5 hours, but it flies by. An ending that definitely is memorable, and just overall a film that really does such a great job of the highs and lows, the rise and fall of this lead character, as well as the people surrounding him. Phenomenal filmmaking. Love Boogie Nights, and yeah, that's why it's my number 33. Next up, my number 32, that is Memento. Yeah, Memento, I rewatched it last week, actually, and yeah, it's a masterpiece. One of the best examples of nonlinear storytelling. I love how we are seeing the film from the character's perspective, and we are also experiencing the film backwards. It's told backwards in one timeline, and then another timeline, it's being told forward. So we as audience members have to keep along with these two timelines, and they end up intersecting towards the end. And it's very, very effective. Incredible twist, incredibly performance. Definitely, without a doubt, one of my favorite films, but also my favorite Christopher Nolan film. I love Memento. If you've been sleeping on it and you want a film that's one of the best neo-noirs and just in general films of the 2000s, check out Memento. It is incredible. And yeah, that's why it's my number 32. Next up, my number 31, we have, here we go. My number 31 is The Godfather Part II. So The Godfather Part II is 3 hours and I think 20 minutes. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it zips by. But what I will say is, by the end, you feel as though you got hit in the gut. It's a gut punch of a film that is quite effective at dissecting family. And the breakdown of such is just something that is a full circle moment. It's a great companion piece to Part 1. Obviously, Part 2 does stand on its own. But the way that it's able to weave together all of these characters, telling the past and the present, with Michael Corleone and his father in the past and how these two are in a lot of ways parallels. It's just really, really strong storytelling. I know there's a whole argument of which is better, 1 or 2. I will say I like 1 better than 2, but they're both 5 out of 5 films for me. So it's like trying to pick your favorite kid. It's like something that you just don't do. But here we are. I do have The Godfather higher up than Part 2. But again, you see how high up Part 2 is, so you know it. I love this film. Shines on 4K, and yeah, that's why it's my number 31. Next up, my number 30, we have L.A Confidential. What a film. What a film. So it's a neo-noir mystery, first and foremost, but it also is able to sprinkle elements of the action genre, the romance drama, and then also drama. And that's something that I find to be really, really fascinating because this is a killer script. Being able to weave together all these different genres in such a seamless way is something that is no easy task. But the writer is able to do so, as well as the director, in a way that is just consistently entertaining. It's also very, very well acted. Every single performance gives their all, and it's just incredible at bringing to life the script. I'll also say the twists and turns of this are also really good. It's got one of my favorite action scenes of all time in this, and just an ending that is satisfying. This is overall just a very satisfying film. Yeah, CD characters, and yeah, it's a morally gray kind of film, but I mean, if you've been hearing all my other choices, you know that that's just a day in the life of Chad in terms of my picks of films. Whatever. But yeah, that is my number 30. Next up, my number 29, we have Rosemary's Baby. So, Rosemary's Baby, it wasn't a film I always loved. Back in 2015 when I watched it, I just thought it was good, but then I decided to revisit it before the movie Mother, Darren Aronofsky's film, came out, and I liked it a little bit more, but then I decided to revisit a couple years after, and it really clicked that this is a great, great film, and I've seen it a couple of times since, and just, it gets better with each viewing. It's a film that really makes me angry. It brings about that emotion that very few films are able to do, but this film is able to do that. I really care for this lead character. I really care with what she's going through, and I think that with what the director is able to garner, that kind of emotion through the directing and through this character journey, it's really something. One of the greatest endings, not a film for everyone because of what it is dealing with, but let me just say this. It is a film that, if you like horror, it is a necessity to view. And it also has one of the best dream sequences of all time. A film that is able to meld drama and horror and art house seamlessly. Watch Rosemary's Baby if you haven't already. It's incredible. And yeah, that's why it's my number 29. Next up, we have a more lighthearted film. We have my favorite animated film of all time, and that is Fantastic Mr. Fox at my number 28. Yeah, it's a cussing great film. No cuss about it. Yeah, there's really not much more for me to say. I think the claymation is outstanding, voice acting, pacing, zips by, soundtrack. It's just overall a film that I can't find a fault in. I think it works all the time, all the other times that I've seen it. Every single viewing, I just fall in love with it again. Yeah, one of the best films, especially animated. Yeah, but that's Mr. Fox is my number 28. And now we're back to the morally gray films. Next up, we have my number 27, which is Seven. Yeah, Seven is the film that you watch and you get a shower afterwards. Fantastic film. Killer ending. Characters that you care about. Great, great cinematography. Howard Shore's score, fantastic. And again, performances, everything comes together. A great mystery that unfolds with an ending that you will never forget. That is for sure. Whether you like the film or not, you can't deny that. This film has an ending that you can't forget about. And yeah, well, that's my number 27. Next up, my number 26. You want to talk about unforgettable? My number 26 is Chinatown. This is a film that's similar to Rosemary's Baby, which ironically is the same director. Is a film that my rating has gone up over the years to the point of where now I think it is a masterpiece, and I just think that it's so close to my top 25. So much so that is why it's at my number 26. But this is a film that has a gut punch of an ending. It is also very much so inspired by, yes, noir films that came before it. But it's a film that also has had an impact on films that have come out since then. In particular, Mother List Brooklyn, which, yeah, it's not on my top 100 films list. But there's another film on my list that it did inspire, and that was L.A Confidential. You don't have you don't have Chinatown, you don't have L.A Confidential. But it's more than that. This is more than just like a homage to films that came before it. This is a film with a mystery, storytelling that is just very strong, dialogue, characters, everything comes together full circle. This is one of the best examples of storytelling in my personal opinion. Great performances, great cinematography, a very lovely score, and just, yeah, you won't forget it, that's for sure, because similar to Seven, It's got a gut punch of an ending, and yeah, you want to take a shower afterwards. But yeah, guys, that is my top 26 to 50. Like I said before, I'll try to give you guys my, 51 to 75 and then 76 to 100 pretty soon. But I really appreciate you guys watching. This is something that I know for some of you, you guys may have been waiting for a long time. I apologize about that. Hopefully, it won't be the case with the other two parts, but I also just want to hear your guys, top 50 or even your top 26 to 50 down in the comment section down below. Because I know that at the end of the day, film is subjective. I'm very curious to hear what your guys' list looks like because I'm looking forward to seeing how different it is as well as the similarities. And guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget the subscription, notification bell, follow me down Letterboxd, and I will get you guys later.